It is my pleasure to present to you a brief wording on the State War Memorial. Each year on the 11th of November, the State Warden is changed and it becomes a new State Warden, and it can either be male or female, but they alternate and have a ex-service person and then a civilian. It alternates each year, and he's in or she are servicing for the next 12 months to attend all the wreath-laying services either at the Flame of Remembrance or at the actual memorial itself. Also, there is a Deputy Warden whose job is more or less permanent, and that is Colonel Philip Skelton, who is responsible for organising all the wreath-laying services at the actual memorial. And he has a host of ex or current Highgate RSL members as sub-wardens. And you most probably have noticed up there that they have sort of a uniform with a dark jacket with medals on, light trousers, dark shoes, and a hat fur felt with the RSL badge on the front of the hat. Now, the volunteers are all ex-service personnel, and very few of the old wartime Second World War people are left serving now. Also, we, as the Highgate RSL, are responsible for the Honour Avenue group. Their job is to maintain and replace the Honour Avenue certificates that are subject to a lot of vandalism in the various May Drive, Lufkin Drive and Fraser Drive. It's surprising what happens, and people must be weak in the head. You know, the main memorial was pulled down and rebuilt. Well, the first Christmas that was together in one piece, the vandals came in overnight and smashed the flagpoles off in their sockets on the corner of the memorial and jammed the broken flagpoles down in there, and the little Jewish memorial on the right, as you go in near the Flame of Remembrance, they pushed the complete top of that memorial. That's what we've got to put up with, and there's all the time there's people ramming the post with their motor cars deliberately to break them, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Sandakan Memorial shortly. Now, the Honour Avenue group comprise members of Highgate RSL, and the chairman is, some of you people might know him, Norman Manners, the deputy chairman Alf Till, the secretary Ken Jones, and the treasurer is Alf Till, assistant secretary Robin Slater, and there are actually 11 active members and 7 previous members who alternate working up there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, the Kings Park Board have been very appreciative of the work we do up there, and some years ago we had to rough it. And I mean rough it, we had no workshop facility available or anywhere to do anything really or leave our equipment, but the Kings Park Board have been giving us that building on the right as you enter Fraser Avenue, which used to be the old King Park offices. We now have access to that to hold our meetings, and at the back of that there's some garages that hold barbecue pieces so they can have a bit of a barbecue lunch afterwards. Then over in the workshop area they have given us a complete workshop for our own use, which we can lock up and leave, because there's a lot of work that's got to be done. The posts have all got to be dressed and squared and 3 coats of paint. The plaques have to be cleaned and repainted, and a lot of the, most probably won't be able to see that, but we have now these plastic badges for Air Force, Army services and that, which go on the white post, showing the service that the person that the plaque represents, showing his service. And we had 43 of them in Mary Walk broken overnight, of the little plastic badges, and of those 43 plaques, some of them have been sprayed with paint and others have been ripped off the actual posts. Originally the plaques were mounted on the trees, but that didn't work out very well, and then we became to the stage where we used the 3x2 posts dressed and 3 coats of paint and buried them in front of the trees, because we could put 1, 2, 3 or 4 whatever posts and plaques around a tree with the permission of the people who had the original plaque. I will just read you the Honour Avenue précis, all this paper. The beginning. In 1918, the last year of the Great War, everyone from the boys at the front to the general public at home were war-weary and disgusted with 4 years of slaughter that had seen millions die. Nearly every family in Australia had been touched by this war, losing either a husband, a son, a brother or an uncle, and so on. The whole country was in mourning for 62,000 of our young men who had been killed in action, and for the 156,000 who came home without legs or arms, or who were blinded or gassed. Then there were those who could not face life again and become wastrels or committed suicide. Then they called it shell shock. Today we recognise it as post-traumatic stress disorder. All these horrific deaths and injuries of war from an embryonic population of 5 million people. In this atmosphere, and on the August of 1918, 3 months prior to the armistice, a Mr. Arthur Lovekin had an idea forming in his mind. As the owner and editor of the evening newspaper, the Daily News, he was well aware of the long casualty lists published each day in the West Australian, and he wanted to create a memorial to the men who had fallen. A memorial that would forever remind the people of Perth of the slaughter of so many young Western Australians. He had decided on an avenue of trees within Kings Park, with each tree carrying an iron plate bearing the name of a soldier of WA killed in action. As a member of the Kings Park Board, of which he had held since 1895, he placed the idea before them and it was accepted. The problem was how it would be financed. Lovekin immediately donated £500, which today represents some $25,000. This was followed with donations from the government and the general public. Lovekin also suggested that those next to kin whose plaque was to be posted should pay 10 shillings. This represented 1 shilling for the tree, 2 shillings for digging the hole, 6 shillings and sixpence for the plaque, and sixpence for the paint. With Lovekin's donation, work was able to be started in clearing the bush on both sides of May Drive, from the Subiaco entrance at Saw Avenue, the Thomas Street entrance, to the main intersection where today stands the memorial to Lord Forrest. Queen Mary sent a number of acorns from the Great Park at Windsor for planting in the avenue, and all this work was carried out by former soldiers who had been wounded and returned from the front. The official opening was held on a cold and blustery 3rd of August 1919, the 5th anniversary of the outbreak of the Great War, and some 2,000 people huddled under umbrellas, sheltering from the slashing rain as the speeches began. 404 trees with plaques were dedicated on this day, each plaque bearing the rank, name, age, unit, place and year of death of a young Western Australian. The Kings Park Board assumed the responsibility of caring for the Honour Avenue, and they extended the improvement to the balance of May Drive down to that which is now Winthrop Avenue at Crawley. With a further 280 trees in place, this was dedicated on the 7th of November 1920. In 1922, the West Perth sub-branch of the Returned Soldiers Imperial League of Australia volunteered to take over the custodianship of the Honour Avenue. By this stage, Mr. Lovekin had donated some $90,000 in today's value, and Forest Drive was renamed Lovekin Drive out of respect for this man who had done so much to perpetuate the memory of our war dead. World War II, only 21 years after the conclusion of the Great War, again scythed through the young male population of Australia, leaving 40,000 dead with over 150,000 wounded or injured. Our population was then 7 million. And in 1946, John Watson, a Gallipoli veteran and military medal winner, approached the Kings Park Board and suggested that the remaining trees in Lovekin Drive be allocated to Western Australian servicemen who had lost their lives in World War II. It was agreed, and an official ceremony was held on Sunday, 5th of December 1948. It was on this occasion, and for the first time in the history of the Honour Avenues, that trees were dedicated to an army nurse, 2 war correspondents and a father and son killed in the First and Second World Wars respectively. Because of an amalgamation of RSL branches, it was Highgate sub-branch who finally took charge of the maintenance of the plaques in the early 1970s. Because of complaints, it was decided to remove the plaques from the trees and place them on a wooden post, which could then be located at the base of each tree. Today there are 3 Honour Avenues: May Drive, Lovekin Drive and Murray Walk, which is off May Drive. There are some 2,300 plaques. We are now doubling up, and there are 2 and 3 to a tree. The Scullen Boys of Kalgoorlie in May Drive. Each tree is numbered, plaques numbered on the back, 100 ABC, etc. All the names are on the Honour Avenue site through the Kings Park master site. Applications for the KP War Memorial Check War Graves check, and this is in case anybody wants to get a plaque for a relative. The dedication ceremony for next of kin, the cost now is $225, and preparing new plaques and posts, maintaining older posts and plaques, and maintaining the facilities which we are now using, financing new plaques, grants, fundraising, ex-brochure, careless drivers, vandals. Why we do it, most of us have lost someone, pride and comradeship. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. I have just brought a sheet roughly along. Last Saturday, the 22nd of November, we had a dedication service for 11 people, and I won't read you the names and that, but that is going on all the time. Now I'd just quickly like to mention the main memorial, the Sandakan. You will have seen the photographs of the recently erected Sandakan Memorial and the list of prisoners of war from WA killed by the Japanese. This beautiful memorial, erected by Borneo Prisoners of War Relatives Association of WA Inc., must be seen to be appreciated. I don't know whether anyone here has seen that little memorial in Mary Drive, but it is a beautiful memorial and it is well worth having a look at. It has the plaques with all the names of the West Australians on either side, and the Korean Senior High School are the custodians of that memorial. When there is a service at the memorial, the Korean High School children provide the band, the choir and the speakers for the service, and they do a magnificent job. They are also responsible for putting the flowers on the plaques and posts in the various avenues on Anzac Day. You know how they come along and put the flowers on top of the plaques? Well, the Korean Senior High School do that. That, I think, covers it pretty well, but I would recommend, if anybody has the opportunity, to go up and see that Sandakan Memorial. It is well worth seeing, and if we can have it with the flowers on it now, thank you.